Good afternoon. Thank you for your patience. We are live from City Hall Chamber.
All right, I would like to call this meeting to order. At this time, I would like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and acknowledge the diverse indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Nakota Sioux, as well as Métis and Inuit, now settlers from around the world. And I will do a roll call of council members. Councillor Wright.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Knack.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Principe.
Hello.
Councillor Stevenson.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Paquette.
Hello.
Councillor Tang.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Hamilton.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Councillor Rutherford.
Good afternoon.
Okay, Councillor Rutherford is there, and Councillor Salvador.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Cartmel.
Good afternoon.
Councillor Rice.
Good afternoon.
And Councillor Jans.
Good afternoon.
Okay, here we go. All right. Okay. We don't have any protocol items or anything because this is continuation, right, Madam City Clerk? Yeah.
That's right. We're just at adoption of the agenda.
Okay, here we go. Councillor Hamilton, please.
Yes, I will move request for time specific, actually, is this?
16.2.
Yeah, no, I'm, sorry, I'm in my own head. Have we passed the agenda, adoption of the agenda yet?
No, we have not.
There we,
Oh,
okay, that's where,
where's
see,
Where's the list then?
it's all right.
Here.
I'm gonna move adoption of the agenda.
Yes, okay. Okay,
Second.
please vote. Yeah,
Can I just confirm that that second was Councillor Rice?
yeah, Councillor Rice seconded it.
In favor.
Okay,
Yes, for me.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. Thank you, Councillor Tang.
I'm a yes too. It flashed and then went away.
Yeah, same as me. I'm a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Thank you,
Likewise.
Councillor Paquette.
there you go.
Yes, from Councillor Salver.
Okay.
We're just waiting on one vote. Councillor Wright. That's okay. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried, and approval of the minutes, none. Protocol items, none. Select items for discussion. Select items for debate. So what we will do today, just in case before we start selecting, that so that everyone understands the agenda for the day today, we will make 16.2 first item of the business when we come to that. Then we could potentially deal with item 11, the private report landfill gas to renewable natural gas conversion project. Then the rest of the items we will start tomorrow with agencies, right?
With section 7 tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, with there'll be okay, there'll be 7.1, 7.2 to 7.11, right?
That's right. Item 711 is
Will
time
be,
specific.
it's on
for-
Friday.
For
Okay,
Friday,
good.
yes.
So we'll deal with 7.1 to 7.10 tomorrow and 7.11 on Friday. Okay, all right. So select items for debate. Go ahead, councillors. Councillor Stevenson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to select 16.2. Yeah, but do we have to select all items?
We can select all items today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did anybody else want to select items? No? Okay. I will select all items, please.
Okay. So that's 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, 7.5, 7.6, 7.7, 7.8, 7.9, 7.10, 7.11, 8.1, 9.1, 9.2, 1.1, 10.1, 10.2, and 11.1, and then 16.1, 16.2, and the bylaws 17.1 and 17.2. Okay, and votes on reports not selected for debate, none, right? Are there any? There are? No, no. Yeah. Councillor Cardwell, sorry.
Nope, nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay. Request to speak, none. Request for specific time on the agenda. Councillor Hamilton.
I'll move that the following item be dealt with at a specific time on the agenda. That item is 6.2, update on emergency shelter space in Edmonton, first item of business on Wednesday, November 30th, which is today.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Councillor Rice. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Vote on bylaws not selected for debate, none. Councillor inquiries? No councillor inquiries. Report to be dealt at a different time, none. Request for reschedule, none. Unfinished business, none. And now we go to our first item, which is 16.2. And let me find it here. And as the chair of the executive committee, I will introduce the item and I'll pass the chair on to Councillor Wright.
I have the chair.
Thank you. So this report was brought forward by administration to the executive committee, recognizing the challenges of lack of shelter capacity during the winter, and administration made a presentation and they recommended what was approved by the committee. Committee had a very lengthy discussion on this and recommended to council, and I'll read the recommendation. Recommendation from the committee to November 30th, 2022 City Council budget meeting that the 2022 operating budget for the social development branch be increased by $7.5 million on a one-time basis, spent over a multi-year period in relations to bridge transition housing and shelter spaces at 15540 Stony Plain Road, with funding from the Financial Stabilization Reserve. And part two, that a subsidy funding agreement between the City of Edmonton and Jasper Place Wellness Center up to a maximum amount of $7.5 million as outlined in attachment 2 of the November 23rd, 2022 Community Services Verbal Report CS01603 be approved, and that the agreement in the form and content acceptable to City Manager. And I will move that recommendation.
Second?
Anybody to speak? Please vote.
And you have questions?
I'm sorry. Questions first?
I do have a short presentation I can make, Mayor, just to answer some of the other questions we had.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Good afternoon. With us today is Jennifer Clement and Stacey Gelatly, who you know, but I also wanted to introduce Taylor Soraka, who is from Jasper Place Wellness and the proposed operator for this initiative. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go through the whole presentation again. I'm only going to do additions that we provided based on questions that we had at Executive Committee. So this slide just simply shows the details of Homeward Trust by name list from going back from June 2020 until November of 2022 this month, and just shows some of the details for the numbers of homeless people and how they've grown over that time to the 1,250 people that we've been talking about as part of this proposal. Next slide. We added on this slide some of the very latest occupancy rates for shelter spaces. And I also wanted to explain that there are folks that we are sort of helping to navigate to shelters every night. And last night, just so you've got the latest numbers, we had 156 people who did take up the offer of using the warming buses and going to shelters, but we also had 118 people who refused to get on the buses to shelters for whatever reason. And so that is just a group of people we really want to help navigate to shelter spaces, and I think the more options we provide them, the more likelihood we will have of trying to navigate those people that we're missing. And I think it's also those 118 people from last night also represent a group of folks that really we need to enhance the shelter standard overall to a minimum standard, because I think that's a big reason for them not getting on those buses and not going to the shelters that we're offering. I also wanted to clarify the term spaces, because we've often used the term spaces or beds, and as we described, this can be a mix between a real space, which I would call a room with a bed and some amenities, but ranges to the lower end, which is well below minimum sheltered, which is a mat on a floor. And so we're going to, in our language, try to be much clearer as we continue to talk about this, the difference between a room, a bed, and a mat on a floor, because I think it's an important difference and one that I think Council has asked us to pay attention to. Next slide. There's really no detailed update on the Shigella response, but I did want to let you know that we have asked Dr. Sikora to join us on January 25th at the Emergency Advisory Committee meeting for a more of a general and detailed discussion on the health impacts of homelessness, where he could answer a lot of questions that we know Council has. So that'll be a special agenda that we put on that next Emergency Advisory Committee meeting later in January. Next slide, there's no change to the approach, as the mayor alluded to. This next slide this is a new piece of information, because you had asked us for an additional, a specific cost breakdown of this proposal. And what this shows is the costs summarized into 6 categories with their respective 2022 and 2023 amounts identified. And you'll note that due to the short nature of this project and the short-term lease term, the site lease costs would be provided up front, and that's why there's a much greater number for the 2022 in that second row. But it is generally a short duration lease, and we think it's important to if we're going to do this, make our commitment up front so that Jasper Place can get on with that. And we've talked about the other differences in terms of per capita costs, so I'll just leave that for now. Next slide is just the recommendation that the chair of Executive Committee has also already read out, and we're happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Oh, is he on? Sorry. Councillor Cartmel?
Thank you. Can we go back to the slide with the costs on it? And the question I have here is, can you elaborate a little bit more, Mr. Corbould, on what the stand-up costs are? I see that the lease costs are in the next line, and that's front-ended, and then presumably there's a bit of front-ending to get utility hookups and that kind of a thing in place. But what's the stand-up cost?
Yeah, I would just generally say it's sort of the setup, you know, it is a hotel now. We've got to do some setup to make things like the reception rooms and I think security stations and the purchase and setup of some of the congregate space, but maybe Taylor would like to elaborate more.
I think that's exactly right. Just getting the space in order. The space is currently functioning as a hotel, so getting the spaces set up, where the mats would be specifically, to function properly so people can be safe. So that looks like security stations, that looks like planning out the space so people are sleeping safely, having an emergency plan put in place in the space. All of the hard costs, I think, are pretty replicated at the other shelters. So that would be things like mats and down to basic walkie-talkies to ensure that the safety of our guests can be completed.
I might also note that there's likely a need for hygiene support such as showers, washrooms, making sure that those are adequately available to the individuals that will be there.
Aren't those kinds of things in, forgive me, aren't those kinds of things in the room? This is a hotel, so I'm imagining a hotel.
This is a combination. This will be a combination of rooms and congregate space, and therefore for the congregate space, we need to ensure that they have adequate hygiene resources available to them.
Okay, okay, thank you, that makes sense. Those are my questions.
One last thing was there, in addition to the congregate space for sleeping, there was also, you know, there's going to be a room identified for reception of folks during the day as well, so that'll take some preparation as well.
You look like you have something more to add.
Just the day portion of the shelter, there's lots of costs involved with that. Food, making sure people can get transportation. I'm sure you can imagine how that list grows. So both together kind of add up.
Yeah, I'm getting a better picture now. Thank you, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Knapp?
Thank you, Councillor Wright, and thanks for the presentation. Just a few quick questions. Thanks for being here today. And a common question I'm getting from residents is just what we can expect in terms of support for the guests. So I imagine we're going to have mental health support and physical health support. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that? Because there's been some interest in how we're going to make sure we can help everyone.
So we operate a primary care clinic, so we will have health care available on site. We will also be providing mental health supports on top of the physical health. Our mission is to expedite people through housing and to housing. Shelters are a temporary, momentary solution to a systemic problem. So our goal as a historic housing provider, main support will be getting people into housing that meets their needs so we can break this systemic cycle for them. Food supports are on site, access to support around identification, which we talked about earlier today quite a bit, and access to having pharmacists who can help people with their meds, all of the daily things that you or I would probably take for granted. I'll just highlight that we've been functioning in West Edmonton since 2006 and providing the majority of these supports, just not in an overnight setting.
Absolutely. My time hasn't started, by the way. I'm probably about a minute and a half to 2 minutes gone. Thank you. That's very helpful. The other question I just wanted to ask, I've been getting a lot of folks who've reached out and said, how can we support everyone here in terms of donations, in terms of what you need, in terms of maybe volunteering their time? I don't know if volunteers will be allowed on that site, but can you share a little bit about what I can share with residents who live in the West End who want to make sure that you're fully supported?
Absolutely. We're working now with a community member on a video kind of describing how people can support us. That site specifically is not, will be calling that space home, so not ideal for volunteers, but donations are always needed. Winter clothing is key for us. But we will make sure to share that video that kind of highlights all of those
I'll
things.
share that far and wide once it's ready, so.
I will mention we are partnered with Homeward Trust in a winter warming program where we do have volunteer spaces.
Absolutely. Last question I would ask, I just had got a message from the Stony Plain Road BIA. Wanted to get a sense of how you'll be working with them and subsequently them, and I know we have beat officers that work on Stony Plain Road, and there's obviously always a balance of folks wanting to feel comfortable, but how do you envision working with them to help support everyone in the community, including the guests that'll be staying?
Absolutely. We work closely with the BIA historically and with the beat officers and the West Division. They are a huge asset to what we do. So we rely on them in many different ways. The number one way we rely on them is working with neighbors to feel comfortable in their space, because we all deserve to feel comfortable in community, and sometimes shelter space can make people question if that comfortability. So working with the BIA and the West Division and our beat officers to create that kind of feeling of everyone being welcome in the space, that takes many different routes that I probably can't get into right now.
For sure.
But it is a commitment we've had since 2006, and I live and work in the neighborhood, so the commitment is there for sure.
I know you do. Thank you. So that's great, and I'll make sure. I assumed that was going to be the answer. I just wanted to make sure I asked it out loud since I just got an email on it, and I know some of the business owners are just wanting to make sure that. Overall, I've heard very positive things, but again, wanting to just make sure they understand how you'll be working with those folks. So those are all my questions, and I might say a few brief words later. Thank you.
Mayor Sohi?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much, Taylor, for your work and your leadership. Just want to better understand the how this plays that you would run if council gives approval provides a little bit more dignity to people, right? Because people who are houseless also have physical illness, mental challenges, and, trauma. I just can't imagine someone sleeping on the floor on a mat with physical ailment can be ready for, putting their life together.
It's definitely a tough question, and I would say every individual has a unique set of needs that can be very hard to meet in a shelter setting. Our goal in working with Tall Cree is having an Indigenous partner on this, bringing in some of the cultural supports that perhaps may have been lacking in some of the things we've provided and our partners have provided in the past. We see that as very valuable. But on the physical health side, we see the transitional housing portion of this being key to solving some of these issues for individuals. So understanding that an individual can, with the mats being available and the transitional housing side being available, their individual needs can be met on site.
So that can be accommoded, like if you see severe needs, there's a room available for them, right? That they can, or there's a washroom for them to take shower, change clothes, and it's a little bit more humanistic approach.
I would most definitely agree. We are historically not shelter providers and believe in housing. So for us, taking a transitional approach, even from the mats to the transitional housing, depending on someone's individual autonomy of what they want, we see this being extremely successful.
Good. Okay, thank you. And to our city manager, Corbold, how do we engage in a way that we are not in this position every winter, right? I have a subsequent motion that I will make after this, right? Having those conversations, because we have people dying every day. We had heard from Bear Clan that they know of 3 people died, right? Then we have Alberta Health Services and Fire Rescue reporting on confirmed deaths, about 4 people they know of that died, and we had one death yesterday, right? It's a crisis. So how we elevate this conversation to a crisis level with our partners, particularly the provincial government?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, for the question. I think a few things. First of all, we have really good data and numbers on the people that need help. Yeah. And so we have to state now exactly how many spaces we need and make sure those spaces are in place in the time. And so we tried to do that last year or this year. I think we did better this year than we did last year because the gap we were facing last year in terms of space was much greater than 209 spaces. And so as you know, we've done a lot of work in collaboration with the province on data, and that's been helpful. This year we're 209 spaces away. So I think we just got to keep on hammering the data and sharing that data. That's one. I think two, we need to, as we've said several times, work on increasing the minimum shelter standard for all shelters in the province and in the city, which we started to do, but we have a lot more work to do on that regard. So ideally next year, there wouldn't be mats on floors. Every space would be a bed or an appropriate space. And those minimum shelter standards, as you know, include proper cultural supports and things. And I think another one is continuing to focus on the core root problem, which is mental health and addictions, which we've had some recent success in collaboration with the province on that. We need to just keep on doubling down on those activities for sure.
And having actually I'm out of time, sorry.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Jans.
Thank you. This may be tangential, so I may get a call out of order here, but about a week ago, we were talking about encampments, and I heard the city manager said because of Shigella, the medical establishment, AHS is saying it'd be better to try and clear out some of the camps and move people into housing. I certainly think this will help with this. I'm wondering though, I've heard from some constituents and folks saying they've witnessed the housing or the encampments being cleared, but the residents of the encampments just stand and wait, and once bylaw leaves, they just rebuild the encampment because they really don't want to go to the shelters. Now, whether that's the 98%, whether that's it's not working, could you speak to how this will help change the outcome?
And I think that it's much like I said, every night we deal with transit. Some people are willing to go to shelters, and we help them get there using our buses. Some people clearly state they are not prepared to go to shelters, and then we offer solutions like using a warming bus all night when it's below -10. I really believe this gets back to the minimum standard thing again. If every shelter in the province were at the minimum standard that we've identified, which is a huge standard and comes at some cost, I think everybody would be comfortable going to a shelter. And I think we have to have different shelters. I think Hope Mission serves a really good purpose, but I also think we need alternatives for people. I think people need some sort of a choice, and so what I'm very excited about Jasper Place Wellness is this collaboration with Tall Cree, where we're going to have Indigenous cultural experts on the ground, which is what we've been calling for. So this is an alternative that should be more appealing to somebody, and so we have to, and maybe there's other alternatives we have to provide as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we know we do an encampment clearing on, say, the November 23rd. Do we ever track or cross-reference neighborhood crime following that encampment clearing for the next week or two? Because what I've heard is, all their stuff goes in the garbage. You now basically have to go and rob the neighbors to get new things to rebuild your encampment. And I'm like, it's just this cycle of stuff. I was wondering if we ever track that.
Before I ask Ms. Flamin to talk about that, I just also want to say that when we do the when we do the encampments, we take the same approaches with the LRT. So there is social supports there is navigation, transportation to places. I can't force people to go take those options, but they are provided. But Jen, do you have anything to add on the follow-up afterwards?
There is a narrative out there that when the city comes in to clean up after the encampments, that we just take everyone's things and throw them away. That simply isn't the case. The most recent encampment dismantling that we did, where there were 7 high-risk encampments with incredible fire risks, many folks left with their things, and our teams took 40 truckloads of debris.
Wow.
Excrement, waste,
And some of this was
garbage.
because of worry about Shigella as well too, that dirty linens, et cetera.
Yeah, we're just
that-
taking away
okay.
the garbage. We are not taking
Yeah.
people's
Personal belongings.
items.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
not what we do. That is not our protocol. So I just wanted to correct the record there. And I know that might be what people are thinking or saying or assuming, but that simply isn't our protocol. And
Yeah.
but in terms of tracking crime after the fact, we certainly could, moving forward, have a look at the stats that are available on the open data to see if there is any correlation. But if there is, it is not because we as a city are taking people's things.
No, and I would argue it's because we're not providing housing, and this will help. I guess around my line of questioning is I'm trying to get to, if we're spending $7.5 million here, that actually this is an investment. And I know some of the councillors have been tracking or trying to track how much are, like Southgate Mall in my ward, how much are they spending in extra security? Another business, how much are they spending in extra security? How much are they spending in? And so when we add up these calculations, even home insurance, car break-ins, car insurance going up because of break-ins. So I guess what I'm trying to, does the city manager, do we have a collation in Edmonton from the superintendent of insurance or somebody else, like our failure to deal with housing crisis so far has led to an increased downloading of $1 billion onto taxpayers? Because this $7.5 million quickly becomes nothing.
Yeah, we have some of that, we can get more of that, Councillor, but I will just emphasize in the 10 seconds that the new and good thing about Jasper Place Wellness is that they are housing focused, not shelter focused.
Love it.
And
Love
that mentality is a useful mentality for what we want to do.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure, bye.
Okay, bye.
Oh, I thought we had a new ding to tell you time was up. Councillor Rice?
Thank you. The first question is about the services on site. I understand this is shelter focus, is not housing focus. And for the services on site we provided, and is part of this cost of 7.5 million, or is additional cost?
The on-site services are part of this $7.5 million request, and they're all contained in this, yeah.
And then so I believe we do this, and we try to find the long-term and then ongoing solution. And then the ultimate outcomes is to get people into the housing. So that means the services on site, and also the integrate together for the other type of services, and then everything is part of this 7.5.
Correct. I would say with the exception of partners that Jasper Place would work with. So for example, they will have a collaboration with local businesses. They will have a collaboration with EPS. If there would be anything that we could do to help as a city from ops, whether it be cleaning streets around, we would certainly collaborate with them. But most of the services on site are absolutely part of this budget.
Wonderful. And then the next question, I know all this number is based on the forecast. And then what if this number is not enough and back in forward to the January or February? What will happen?
Well, we believe, Councillor, that we made a good, solid estimate for this for the next 6 months. We're feeling very confident about that, which I think has resulted in, we didn't cheap out on this. We didn't try to provide a half the funds that were required. This is an honest perspective on it, which is why so many people are asking about the cost of this. So I feel very confident that we've done a very good cost estimate of this, and we won't be there. But this is a 6-month deal.
Yeah, I understand it's 6 months deal. So is there any plan B if something happen, if additional requests needed? Is there any plan B and already in place?
Well, I would say my plan B is if we get this decision today, my next step is to sit down with the province again and talk about longer term solutions and continuing to ask for collaboration and additional bed spaces, and I know they're working on other things as well, so that's our plan B, is to keep on working on the long-term solutions with the province of Alberta.
Is there any specific measures how we measure success? And then is there any also reporting process and in place and to get back the information for the updates, the data and the progress and everything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll evaluate this program. We'll bring back a report at the end of the 6 months to council to talk about what was achieved and what worked well and maybe lessons learned. But I would say that huge success for me is that if we get a large percentage of the people that visit this place into actual a permanent affordable housing solution, that they no longer require to be on the street at all.
So the measures, and I heard, and we will get report after 6 months, so we will not see the progress like 3 months or monthly, and because the winter keep changing, the temperature change, and is not possible, and for us to get that progress.
Well, we will do a full evaluation of this at 6 months. We will, as always, provide you regular updates on what's going on every night with regard to transit safety and numbers, and we do that routinely through memos, and we'll continue to do that. And if this place is approved, we will include what's going on in this shelter as part of that regular update.
Sorry, if I may just interject. I also want to let you know that this collaborative ecosystem in the social serving agencies, there's been some successes. So, for example, did you know that 92 folks have been housed this month? So I just want to balance that there's a lot of terrible things happening, but there's also some progress being made. It is incremental, it is steady because of the good work of our partners in the city.
But the interesting thing when I look at the data in the presentation, actually November 2021, and then if you look at occupancy rates, and we have increased the spaces and from 827 to 897, but the usage and 781. So that is from detail perspective. So I want to use the last few seconds to put another question there, but I can follow up with you offline for that. And so how about the tents in Chinatown? How we get help those people in Chinatown in tents specifically? And because I just drove around and then last night.
Councillor Rice, can we maybe go to a second round then if you
sure.
want? Thank you.
I just try to keep one run. Okay.
And Councillor Tang.
Great, thank you very much for all this work. I just want to follow up on that cost breakdown. So Taylor, you had mentioned food and some of the security supplies, but those are also separate line items in that budget breakdown. And also you mentioned transportation. Would that be part of the current winter warming bus that we currently have, or is this like separate busing
When
system?
I speak to transportation, thank you for the question. When I speak to transportation, we have to remember we're housing focused. So individuals can leave throughout the day to go get ID and to come back
Oh,
to
I
the
see.
shelter.
So I see.
There's
Okay.
a cost associated with that.
Gotcha.
This is my first time speaking here about a budget like that, so I value that those are item lines, and I will pass that off to Andre.
Yeah, no worries. And you know, I think your point about, you know, Jasper Place is not typically a shelter provider, so you need to have a lot of those hardwares brought in and set things up. So I can understand that. So question about that takedown cost, 1.5 in 2023. My understanding from last week's committee meeting was that there will be opportunities to extend or seek permanency in this setup. So are you looking at that 1.5 more as a contingency then? A question for Mr.
Yeah,
Cooper?
Councillor, I would say that, you know, we want to, if it's approved to stand this up, I wanted to be very clear that we're asking for 6 months. So I think we, in all fairness, we have to include a budget that would allow us to close down. But I can tell you that if in 3 months we all say this is working really well, then we will take a look at what options we have. And I'll start with the province first and try to demonstrate and show this as a proven technique. So if we're having huge success, especially if I can say in 2 months that we've stood this place up, we haven't had an empty space for 2 weeks because people want to go here and are getting help. And if we can also show that over the course of a couple of months we've actually housed some people, then it's a success, and then I would say, okay, we should reinforce success. And so I would say that it's there in case we only go to 6 months. That's what we're being asked to do. But certainly, if we have success, I'm going to try to reinforce it and find ways to do that.
Yeah, and that would be part of the story that you'll report back at the end of 6 months, how many folks out of those regular 209 are housed into permanent transition bridge or affordable housing. Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct. But if we're seeing sort of halfway through at the 3-month point that we decide we want to see if we can pursue this,
Sure.
I will start looking at options for that. But I'm going to try to find options that don't include necessarily the city having to pay for it. So we'll try to find some success there.
And I'll also just add, appreciate Mr. Fleming, your mention around progress. I will also be very interested in how many of those, say, 92 folks have remained in their housing. I feel like that's a number we don't talk about enough. And I think we also heard a lot about grassroots, the bottom-up approach to generating some of those solutions. Will you and your team, for example, be very active around working with people to find those opportunities, even however small they are, and through this project, to kind of amplify?
Grassroots is who we are. Everything we do is informed by the people we're serving. So I do think there's great opportunity to rely on the people we're serving to shift our work if it's not working, and also work with other grassroots organizations to make that happen.
Yeah, and I think you heard from some today, excellent grassroots organizations. And I also would encourage that, even if at times those solutions may seem contradictory to the top-down policies.
And I would just add, Councillor, that we didn't go out for this. They came to us with a grassroots solution, so I agree.
Yeah. And I guess just thinking about those 118 people who refuse service, you had mentioned that minimum shelter standards would be really important. What are some of the conversations like beyond that? Because how, you're choosing the worst, you're choosing the least worst option for people to refuse service. And I feel like there's so much more we need to do to elevate those other options so people have better options to choose from.
I just believe, Councillor, that every shelter in this city should operate to minimum standard. This one will not, because we're talking about, we're getting as close as we can in the time we have available, but we need to do more, but there is a cost to that. You're not going to achieve the minimum shelter standard for $11,000 a space.
Thank you very much. I'm out of time.
Thank you. Councillor Paquette?
Oh, thank you. And thank you for this work. I've got a few quick questions. I think the first, if we can circle back to encampments. So do social workers only go on site to provide support when the encampment is being cleaned up? Or do they try and reach out days in advance to offer that support? And the reason I ask is because considering that we would give the community member more time to consider their options or choose with dignity instead of having to make a decision when their home is being taken down might be helpful. So I'm not sure what that timeline looks like.
Thank you for the question. When we have our encampment response teams out in the community, that is exactly what they do. They are doing welfare checks. They are going around offering services. When it is a low-risk encampment, so that means when there isn't an imminent risk of fire or injury, there is a longer time period of that outreach happening and encouraging folks to look at some other options. So that is definitely our protocol.
Okay, so, but they understand that, like, someone is coming in to take down the encampment, like, they understand that days in advance and are provided options?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, we have 4 weeks until JP is up and running. We have about 1,250 accessing shelters sleeping rough. We're already currently under an extreme weather activation. Have we explored more alternatives? I'm thinking specifically about past seasons where we've opened transit stations and our own buildings, et cetera. And what lessons, I guess, is the real question, have we learned from this in the past? And so for people who are listening and wondering about this, why or why not is this a viable option? And I think that people need to hear this.
Yeah, so Councillor, we are not contemplating using transit stations, and the reason we don't is because they're not safe, and we are constantly looking for other places. The mayor and I had a meeting with faith leaders yesterday, where we reached out to them, explained to them the crisis, told them we would help them set up spaces if we could, and so and I'm following up with a detailed letter with contacts. So we've asked the faith communities to stand up. But when it comes down to why we don't think transit is a safe place, it's for the same reasons. People don't want to go to other sometimes shelters as well. So it's just, there's not enough amenities, there's not safety, there's not staff, there's no social supports, there's there's no water sometimes, they're cold, and I am very worried about somebody getting into an LRT tunnel or to a space that we don't know about, and us having a tragic accident in one of those spaces. They are not places that are safe for people to live. So.
Yeah, so these are things that we've learned over the years of our constant efforts. And I don't know if that message has gotten out to the public.
Yeah, and we'll keep trying. And if I could also list reasons why some people don't feel safe going to a shelter, if you'd like me to elaborate on that.
Oh, please do. So
we've done some surveys on this, and the number one reason that people don't want to go to a shelter is don't feel safe, and that's like 56% of the people who are surveyed. The next one at 50% is overcrowded, which speaks to congregate space. The next reason is a lack of privacy. They don't feel that they can get privacy at the shelters. The fourth reason is sometimes they dislike staff. Rules or behavior is the next one. Cleanliness, bugs, dirty, health concerns. And then down at 15%, at about 8th is required religious participation is a concern by some. And then there's the next one is partners not allowed. 14% don't want to go because they can't bring a partner with them. And finally, a very low percentage at 1%. Children are not allowed, but we have special shelters for those as well. So I think it's just important to talk about that from time to time and understand what people who are living, why they don't want to go to shelters. But all of those things can be addressed through minimum shelter standards, which is why it was this survey that led to the design of those standards.
Yeah, no, exactly. Thank you for that. And I know we've received it multiple times, but if we could just get that information in a quick memo form so we could share with folks who are emailing us about this, that might be very helpful.
Absolutely.
And really quickly, look, Tipanawa was 6 months and 10 million, so this price tags, it tracks. Are we going to be getting a report back on successes and learnings on this? Because we didn't get that with Tipanawa, and there was clearly a lot to learn.
Yes, we will do that for sure.
Okay.
Thank
so
you for
no,
the quick
no motion
response
required
with
for
what
that.
time he had left.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Paquette.
Just a point of order. I believe
it's break time.
Yeah, there we go.
Do we take a break?
Well, we haven't changed orders to not get the break.
It does say that we get a break. So shall we just take a quick break or 15 minutes? 5 minutes?
Perhaps the whole 15 for people who might require it.
Okay. We'll take 15 and be back at 3:55 then. Until then, we're in recess.
Hello.
Councillor Paquette.
Hello.
Hello, Councillor Tang.
Good afternoon.
And Councillor Hamilton.
Present.
Councillor Rutherford.
I'm here.
Councillor Salvador.
Hello.
Councillor Cartmel.
Hi there.
Councillor Rice.
Here.
Councillor Jans.
Good afternoon.
And Councillor Sohi will be along shortly. Or I'm sorry, not Councillor, Mayor Sohi. All right. I think we need to go to vote on a second
I'll
round.
move a
If someone
second
can
round.
move. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Please vote.
We're just waiting on one vote.
Opposed.
Thank you, Councillor Jans. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. All right, and Councillor Rice, I think you were up next.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I still have a few questions about that. So for this capacity, for emergency shelter capacity, I saw different number here. Just want to confirm what is the current available spaces?
So Edmonton currently has 622 permanently funded emergency spaces. As of October 1st, the Government of Alberta announced another 450. Of that 450, 300 have come online, and the Government of Alberta is working to get those last 150 online. So that number is shifting each night as more spaces become operational, but the Government of Alberta has assured us that we'll be at 1072 by middle of December at the latest. If we add the 209 that we are thinking about now, that would get us to 1281, I think.
I'd just like to note, Jennifer, that we do have newest information in as of this morning, and they're just about at their 450 now.
So this is different from the presentation, what's the shelter occupancy, and when we calculate that number. So I really saw different number here. I just want to say what is spaces right now we know exactly available and open.
Well, when you look at the slide that has the shelter occupancy, back on November 9-10, there were 827 spaces available. But as these other shelter spaces come online, that number goes up then. So on November 20th, we had 897. And so then if I'm hearing that we're almost at the 450, that would mean that currently we have 1,072 spaces available in Edmonton.
Okay, so for the let me go to the presentation. For the $1.5 million for property repairs, so can you describe a little bit more about this, how we use this money? So if from contingency perspective, we didn't use all 7.5, is that the money come back to FSR or is still hold and for this item?
Well, we will only spend what we need to on this, but this is the cost estimate, and I suspect we will spend this. With respect to the restoration, once you take a facility and use it for a shelter for a period of time, there is a need to restore some of that, and this is the cost estimate for that. We have some experience in the work that we did in the Edmonton Convention Center after that was a shelter for about a year. So it's you know, painting and perhaps changing, fixing fixtures and perhaps carpets and things like that.
I actually received this question from one of my constituents, asked why we need to spend the $1.5 million even for the repairs.
That's just the estimated cost of what it will cost to restore the facility back to the condition that we started it at. So it's not improvements to the facility, it's just an agreement to use that facility and make sure everything is in the place, is the way it was when we start taking possession of it.
Okay. The last question is about the tents in Chinatown, and that I heard, and every night then we use a bus, and and transfer people and from tents to shelters. Is there any specific actions taken, and for so many tents in Chinatown, how we can get those people go to the shelters?
Yeah, there's lots of actions taken every day with the community, and I would say particularly in Chinatown, because there is so many facilities centered there that people can provide support. But at the end of the day, we do not force people to go into shelters.
Okay, Madam Chair, that's my comment.
I had a chance to speak at executive committee, but just wanted to say how grateful I am to see this coming forward. You know, we should never be surprised by winter.